You were not brought here by chance. Your frequency registered in this transmission the moment you leaned in, the same way a radio picks up a distant, clear note and answers. The Arcturians, the council listening at the edges of pattern, have noticed you. They have a simple question for you. Will you answer their invitation? This is not myth-making. It is an observation. Your field has begun to rise. Subtle shifts are arriving around you, opportunities, strange alignments, a sense that timelines are narrowing toward a different version of you. Yet something happens at the threshold, the impulse to step forward, the idea that wants to be spoken, the request that ought to be made. In every one of those moments, your mouth becomes a gate, and too often that gate collapses the signal. Before we go further, if this feels like a soft electric recognition, there is a simple way to anchor your attention right now. Type exactly one word in the comments: coherence. No emojis, no additions, no extra letters, exactly coherence. This single act places a small seal in the public lattice. It is an act of attention that trains the field to notice itself. Listen now as the council describes what is happening. Picture your field as a waveform stretching into the future, a lattice of possibility humming with potential. Your inner energy calibrates a frequency. Your words are not merely description, they act like selectors. They instruct the future where to land and how near to come. When your inner energy and your outer voice match, you create coherence. The waveform holds, the lattice opens, the timeline can converge. When they mismatch, the waveform folds, and the future steps back. That mismatch usually has a single habitual culprit. It lives in your mouth as a small cultural phrase. It feels like humility. It sounds safe. It has saved you from some awkwardness in the past, but it also collapses possibility. It is the micro-contraction that tells the field to keep its distance. You have likely used it many times without noticing the cost. The council names it plainly. The limiter is the phrase, "I'm just." Variants live nearby. "I'm only," "I'm no expert," "It's nothing," "I don't want to be a bother." Each version does the same thing. It shrinks the gate. To understand how this plays out, imagine 3 ordinary scenes that happen to many people, moments where the mouth folds the field before the world has a chance to respond. Scene 1. Introduction. You step into a room and someone asks the inevitable question, "Who are you? What do you do?" There is a line in your chest, a swell of identity that wants to be stated. Instead, your mouth supplies the old script. "Oh, I'm just a..." The sentence finishes, and the gravity of that small word pulls the waveform inward. People nod politely. Doors that might have opened half a breath earlier do not. The field assesses small self, small offer. The timeline that would have bent toward you retreats a measure. Scene 2. The request. You find the right contact, the vulnerable timing. A door is ajar, and you imagine speaking plainly, asking for the favor, the meeting, the support. Instead, your voice becomes a tentatively folded petition. "I don't want to be a burden, but," or "I'm only asking." The words apologize before the request has landed. A request asks the field to move. An apology asks the field to look away. The waveform recoils. Scene 3. Taking space. You are in a group, a meeting, a conversation where your voice matters. Something important comes up. A part of you is ready to claim presence, yet the breath becomes smaller. You obscure your content with qualifiers. "This might be small, but," or "I'm not sure this is worth saying." The throat, which should be a gate opening to expression,
instead becomes a filter that attenuates power. The field reads the subtle signal and matches you, smallness met by smallness. These scenes are not weaknesses. They are habits woven from social training. They were effective once. They protected you from risk in certain contexts, and they became defaults. The Arcturians do not judge. They observe. Their curiosity is, how might you reclaim your signal without becoming aggressive, grandiose, or unmoored? How might you replace habitual contraction with simple declarative alignment? Words will be the engineering tool here, not by force, but by repatterning, replacing a phrase that collapses with a phrase that completes. Each gate, the introduction, the request, the taking of space, has a precise present-tense declarative phrase that reorients the system. These are not motivational slogans. They are selectors, small calibrations you can use immediately that begin to instruct the lattice differently. For introductions, the replacement phrase is exact and simple. I am here to be clear. Say it inwardly first, and notice the quality it creates. This phrase does three things at once. It centers intention, here. It states purpose, to be clear, and it assigns the body permission to occupy signal space without apology. When you open with clarity instead of a self-effacing qualifier, the waveform does not fold, it aligns. For requests, the replacement phrase is, I am claiming my signal. Claims are not demands. Claims are acknowledgments of rightness. When you preface or undergird a request with, I am claiming my signal, you orient the field to receive the ask as legitimate, as a rightful move toward alignment, rather than as a plea. The energy is different. A claim invites reciprocity. An apology invites dismissal. For presence, the moment of taking space, the phrase you will adopt is, I am allowed to take space. This is a corrective to internalized permission structures. It does not arrogate power. It recognizes permission that may have been withheld by culture, upbringing, or fear. Spoken inwardly, it unclenches the throat and extends your waveform without aggression. Notice the shape of these phrases. They are declarative, present tense, direct. They do not say, I will try or I'll attempt. They do not qualify or soften. They do not demand faith or belief. They are practical statements to be used like a tuning fork. The Council insists on exactness here, not because the words are mystical, but because language functions like code. Small variations change the signal. Use the phrases exactly as given when you practice them. This is not about becoming louder or performing. It is about coherence, aligning inner energy with outer expression. The Council's language is clinical and ceremonial at once. Consider the analogy of a lighthouse. The field is the lamp's energy. Your words are the lens. Misaligned lens, scattered light. Aligned lens, beam that reaches. The work is simply to adjust the lens. Do not mistake gentleness for weakness. There is authority in alignment. When you use, I am here to be clear before an introduction, you are not boasting, you are declaring a relationship with clarity. When you say, I am claiming my signal before a request, you are not demanding entitlement, you are framing reciprocity. When you hold, I am allowed to take space in the moment of presence, you are not stealing attention, you are acknowledging your right to participate fully. The Council will also name the three gates more precisely because a single phrase can be used badly if its timing is off. Gate 1, the opening breath, the initiation of presence when you arrive. It is the first pulse that defines the interaction. Gate 2, the delivery of desire. the articulation of needs, offers, and requests. Gate 3, lingering occupancy, how you hold space after you have spoken, how you remain present to the ripples you have produced. Each gate is a pressure point where the familiar gravitational force of the old identity acts. Familiarity is a force. It keeps certain timelines in orbit because they are known and thus energetically comfortable. Your old identity, the one that learned to soften in the throat to avoid criticism or dismissal, exerts a gravitational pull. It will generate the small protecting phrases because they are safe. The replacement phrases act as counterweights. They are not about erasing history, only about reweighing the pull. Let's be concrete about the mechanics, because ritual without mechanics can feel like wishful thinking. In the mouth-throat relationship, 3 things happen physiologically and energetically when contraction occurs. The breath becomes shallow, the vocal folds narrow, and attention retreats inward. Words mirror this state. The small phrase serves as a sealing code. It tells the nervous system to stay small. The replacement phrase does the opposite. It invites the breath to anchor, slightly deepens tone, and asks the attention to expand outward. How this plays out in everyday life: you enter a meeting and are asked to introduce yourself. Before you say, "I'm just," you take a small internal recalibration. You do not need anyone's permission to do this. An internal, invisible phrase, "I am here to be clear," precedes your sentence and subtly shifts the breath and the position of the throat. You then speak your name and the description that aligns with your intent, clean and unembellished. The field reads the coherence and responds with interest. When you ask for something, a mentorship call, a project, a favor, lead with the internal claim. "I am claiming my signal," shifts the energy before the words you will actually say. It does not require you to be brash. It requires you to be honest and present. Requests framed this way travel farther. They are less likely to be folded away. And when you take space, raise your voice slightly in a group, hold a boundary, make a correction, use "I am allowed to take space" as an inward permission. Many people have been trained to shrink in group dynamics. This statement is not about domination. It is about letting the voice have room, which in turn allows the group to calibrate more accurately. The Council also warns, language alone without embodied practice will not sustain the shift. Words are selectors, but repetition is the engineer. That is why a ritual sequence exists. Repetition in measured breath rewires automatic response. The ritual is simple and replicable, not flashy. It is designed to move habit into new muscle memory, to create a small, repeatable action that signals the system to align. Before I guide you through that ritual, I want to pause and give you a map of what will follow, because the map itself helps the field orient. After we practice the simple breath and phrase sequence, we will introduce a sealing statement that you can use privately to align mouth, field, and future. That seal is a precise set of sentences that the Council offers because it ties the biomechanics of speech to the geometry of possibility. You will be asked to speak that seal inwardly to yourself until it feels like a hinge. There are limits here worth honoring. This work does not promise instantaneous miracles. Repetition matters. Some changes will feel small at first. A quiet steadiness in your tone, fewer self-effacing qualifiers in meetings, softer but more consistent presence. That is the goal. Steady repatterning, not spectacular fireworks. And if you have trauma, anxiety, or a body that reacts strongly to breath cues, practice with care. If breath work feels activating in a harmful way, postpone that element and simply repeat the 3 phrases mentally until you feel safe. Now hold these facts in mind as you continue reading. The Arcturians hear the quality of your voice as a signal.
They do not require belief in the council to function as a metaphor for the attention of the larger field. Whether or not you take this literally, the mechanism is practical. Replace contraction with declarative alignment. Repeat. Let the system adjust. There are cultural reasons the "I'm just" limiter exists. It is a social lubricant in many contexts. It reduces friction. It can be a survival strategy in environments that punish visibility. It can protect relationships. But in the contemporary complexity of timelines, what once protected you can now be the very thing that closes doors. The invitation you have received is to upgrade the protective pattern into a coherent strategy that preserves safety while increasing reach. At this point, you might be thinking, will my audience perceive me differently if I stop saying "I'm just"? Perhaps. Some people will notice, some will not. But the goal is not to be perceived as different. The goal is to align your internal field with your outer broadcasting. Clarity is not a performance, it is a consistent state. Your voice becomes a faithful transmitter when the inner and outer match. Let's pause and walk through each gate with a bit more precision so the replacement phrases can land in their proper context. Gate 1. Introduction. The essential question at this gate is, what are you signaling when you name yourself? Are you signaling scarcity, apology, or readiness? The replacement phrase, "I am here to be clear," is a direct repositioning. It asks you to define yourself in relation to clarity rather than to a minimized self-image. Clarity is an offering. It is gentle and useful. It invites people to engage with the thing you are presenting instead of the lack around it. Example: you enter a workshop and someone asks your role. The old pattern, "Oh, I'm just a practitioner." The new pattern, you breathe inwardly and hold, "I am here to be clear," then respond, "My name is X. I work with somatic signal integration for breath-led teams." You do not elaborate needlessly. You do not apologize. You have oriented to clarity, and the field responds. Gate 2. Request. The essential question here is, from what internal permission are you asking? Are you asking from lack or from rightful claim? "I am claiming my signal" recenters the ask. It places the request as a legitimate move toward alignment. It also helps you to frame the request with precision rather than dilution. Example: when asking for support, your old line might be, "I know you're busy, but..." The new line would be generated internally by the claim, then followed by a clear, concise request. "Would you be available for a 30-minute conversation to discuss X?" The claim does the energetic work. The clear request does the mechanical work. Gate 3. Presence. This gate is about remaining. After you speak, do you retreat, neutralize, or hold? "I am allowed to take space" is permission language. Not permission from others, but permission you give to your own field to maintain amplitude. Example: after offering a point in a meeting, rather than immediately deflecting or retreating into a smile that reduces importance, you hold the internal phrase. You maintain a steady breathing line. If follow-up questions come, you answer. If disagreement arrives, you do not contract into apology. You hold presence with gravity, not force. Each gate supports the others. The introduction primes the request. The request is clearer when the field is aligned. Presence sustains both. This triad is a system, not an isolated trick. You may even now notice resistance. Old identities will murmur. "Who am I to claim my signal?" they will say. This is expected. That murmur is not a failure, it is data. Notice it without shame. The council is not interested in shaming, it wants alignment.
Observe the voice, name the habit, and choose practice. Practice in public or private as suits you. One of the simplest forms of practice is repetition. Use the phrases exact as presented, in private at first. Speak them inwardly 3 times. Notice what happens to the weight in your chest, to the openness behind your throat. If you wish to test them publicly, that is possible, but do not coerce exposure. The Council understands safety. Try them in small, low-risk moments, a casual introduction to a new acquaintance, a request for a minor favor, or a short interjection in a familiar group. There is a second layer to this work that the Arcturians emphasize because it deepens habitual change, the tone and duration of voice. Tone acts like a filter on the signal. Clarity is not simply about content, it is about the relational frequency your tone sets. A quiet, steady tone carries more coherence than a loud, jagged one. When you adopt the phrases, also attend to breath support. Allow the breath to be centered in the diaphragm rather than high in the chest. This is not a performance cue, it is a somatic anchor. The Council notes that small adjustments in breath and posture significantly change the lattice's reading of your signal. We will cover specific tone practices and silence as a tool later. For now, commit to noticing every time you default into smallness. Observe the contexts where it arises most often. Notice the internal narrative that accompanies it. Create a small ledger in your mind. Introduction, request, presence. See which gate is most active for you. There will be a pattern. The pattern is your path forward. There is a final conceptual point the Council insists on before we move into ritual practice. The future is not mercifully neutral. The field is responsive to precision. When you are precise, the timeline can converge. When you are vague or apologetic, the future reads that as low amplitude and keeps a respectful distance. Saying, "I'm just," is an act of low amplitude. Saying, "I am here to be clear," "I am claiming my signal," "I am allowed to take space," are acts of calibrated amplitude. They do not force outcomes, they simply adjust what the system perceives as available. Allow a brief inward hold, a natural pause the length of a heartbeat, and then exhale while bringing the phrase inwardly into alignment. I am here to be clear. Exhale the phrase as an internal statement, not as performance. Let it land behind the sternum. Notice the way the throat feels when you give yourself permission to be clear. Do not judge the experience, simply notice. Cycle 2 engages requests. Again, inhale with attention to depth that supports steadiness. Hold briefly, a simple heartbeat pause to let the inhalation become intentional. As you exhale, say inwardly with exactness, "I am claiming my signal." Feel the difference between an ask softening into apology and an ask anchored in claim. This phrase is a permission to ask from rightful place, not from deficit. Cycle 3 practices presence. Breathe in, allow the body to fill with a steady support. Hold a short beat, and as you release, bring the phrase into your interior. I am allowed to take space. Notice what happens to your posture, to your intention, to the way your mind anticipates others' responses. This phrase is the small realignment that loosens habitual constriction. Repeat the 3 cycles in succession 3 times. That is, complete cycle 1, 2, 3. That counts as 1 set. Return to cycle 1 and repeat, then again for the 3rd set. The repetition creates a patterned cue the nervous system recognizes. If breathwork is not safe for you in this moment, perform every repetition silently. Speak inwardly each phrase 3 times with the same pacing you would use if you were breathing. After the cycles, there is an inward seal, a short set of statements that integrate mouth, field, and future. Speak these sentences inwardly, in order, with attention to each word. The exact seal is, my mouth matches my field matches my future matches my truth. Say the seal slowly, once, and feel into the resonance of each clause. Allow the geometry of the phrase to sit across your chest and throat as a hinge. This sequence is not dramatic. The shift you are cultivating is a quiet recalibration. You will not necessarily feel fireworks. More likely, you will notice a steadier center, a slightly broader line in your voice, a hesitation that shortens or softens. Those small signals are meaningful. They are the nervous system rewiring. Practice notes and variations. 1. Time and repetition matter. Begin with 1 short session daily for 7 days. 3 cycles, 3 repetitions each session. After a week, increase to twice daily if it serves you. The council emphasizes repetition as the engineer of habit. 2. Micro practices are useful. When you wake, before you start your day, say the 3 phrases inwardly once. Before a meeting or an introduction, take a single quiet cycle. Breathe, internalize the relevant phrase, then proceed. 3. Public testing should be voluntary and gradual.
Try the phrases first in low-risk contexts. A friendly introduction, a request for a small favor, a brief contribution in a familiar group. There is no demand to perform on a stage. Safety is primary. If breathwork activates anxiety or trauma for you, pause the breath components and use mental repetition only. Countless people have retuned their signal without breath when the body needed a gentler approach. Troubleshooting common responses. Resistance. Old identity voices will murmur. They might say, "Who am I to claim my signal?" or "I don't want to seem arrogant." Recognize these as relics of conditioning. Do not moralize them. Observe. Use the practice anyway. The resistance often softens with repetition. External mismatch. Some people in your orbit will respond with confusion. That is normal. It does not indicate failure. As your field aligns, certain relationships and dynamics will recalibrate. Hold curiosity rather than certainty. Overcompensation. The practice is not an invitation to dominate. If you notice yourself leaning toward forceful speech, recenter in breath and the subtlety of the phrases. Declarative alignment carries a different quality than aggression. Integration into speech and social scripts. Words are architecture. To translate the internal shift into outer speech, pair the phrase with concise content. Practice short scripts that follow the inward statement. For introductions, internally, I am here to be clear. Outwardly, my name is X. I work with X. Keep it precise.
Resist the urge to undercut with qualifiers. For requests, internally, I am claiming my signal. Outwardly, would you be willing to meet for 30 minutes to discuss X? State the specifics. Clear energy plus clear ask equals increased travel distance in the field. For presence, internally, I am allowed to take space. Outwardly, hold still after speaking, maintain eye contact as feels appropriate, and allow the group a beat to respond. Silence is a tool. It lets others align to the amplitude you have set. Tone and silence practice, the next layer. Clarity is more than words, it is the texture of tone. A soft, steady tone often carries more coherence than a jagged, loud one. Begin to notice your habitual pitch and pacing. The Council recommends a 2-step practice that deepens the structural change. Step 1. Tone attunement. Read a single sentence aloud with different tonal qualities: breathy, clipped, steady, soft, loud, flat. Observe which variants land with a sense of coherence inside you. The coherent tone is often steady, even, and relaxed. It supports the signal without trying to press it. Step 2. Silence as punctuation. Practice speaking a short, clear line and then holding a silent beat before elaborating. Many people habitually fill silence to avoid discomfort. That filling often undermines the amplitude of the original statement. Silence allows the lattice to register and respond. It also prevents automatic retreat.
Receiving practice, the other half of the exchange. Alignment is not only about speaking, it is about receiving the field's replies. When the future responds, you will face offers, clarifications, and sometimes misfires. Practice the following receiving posture. Pause briefly on the intake of any offer. Breathe. Let the words be heard without immediately shaping them into a response. This creates space for accurate calibration. If you need time, ask for it. A clear request for time is better than an immediate, unclear yes. For example, "That sounds interesting. May I take 24 hours to consider?" Framing your response with honest timing protects coherence. Notice how you accept help. If your inner script still shrinks, the field may not be able to sustain the offer. Practice receiving with a declarative inward statement. I can receive this with clarity. Adjust as needed. Mapping patterns, a diagnostic tool. The Council suggests keeping a simple observational log. Over the course of a week, note 3 moments where you defaulted to smallness and 1 moment where you successfully used a replacement phrase. Record the gait involved and what shifted. The goal is not to tally success, but to collect data. Patterns reveal leverage points. A short module on identity gravity. Old identity is gravitational. It keeps certain timelines in orbit because they are familiar. Replacing phrases functions like adding a counterweight, but counterweights must be introduced gradually. If you attempt to overhaul every pattern at once, the old identity pushes back. The Council recommends choosing the gate that produces the most practical benefit for you and focusing there for 2 weeks. For many, that is either the introduction or the request gate. Sustained focus creates enough momentum to alter adjacent patterns. The practice of calibration in relationship. As you shift, interpersonal dynamics will test the new field. Some relationships will simply calibrate to the new signal. Others will ask more of you, whether consciously or not. Maintain a posture of inquiry. If a relationship consistently punishes your alignments, consider boundaries that preserve both your safety and your trajectory. The Council emphasizes that claiming your signal is not a license to abandon nuance or care. It is a method for aligning intention with expression, so your presence can be authentic and useful. Receiving the Council's feedback.
Occasionally, as you practice, you may sense subtle confirmations, a timely contact, a clearer answer from someone you asked, an opportunity that appears after a conversation where you maintained clarity. These events are not proof of magical causation, they are feedback. Use them to refine the practice, not to build expectation. Progression beyond the initial ritual. The three-phrase ritual is an entry point.
For those who continue, the work deepens in 3 subsequent chapters that the Council intends to address over time: tone refinement, mastery of silence, and the art of receiving. Each chapter is practical and somatic. Tone refinement includes exercises to stabilize pitch and breath support. Mastery of silence trains the capacity to hold a beat and let the field answer. The art of receiving includes protocols for discerning which offers align with emergent timelines and which are diversions. A simple 7-day plan to start. Day 1 to 3, daily ritual, 3 cycles, 3 repetitions, mental seal once. Day 4 to 7, daily ritual plus 1 real-world micro-test, a short intro, a small request, or a group interjection. End of week, review your log, note 3 small changes, a steadier breath, a reduced qualifier, or a longer silence that did not feel awkward. Safety and care. If any element of breathwork triggers strong reactions, scale back. Use inner speech only. If attention to voice brings up deep emotional material, consider working with a trusted therapist, somatic practitioner, or coach who can provide personalized support. The Council's methods are tools, not substitutes for professional care when that is required. On language precision and consistency. A brief technical note. The replacement phrases are intentionally present tense and declarative. Avoid turning them into future-oriented or tentative forms. Do not add qualifiers. To keep the integrity of the tuning, use the exact phrases: I am here to be clear, I am claiming my signal, I am allowed to take space. For the seal, use the exact line: my mouth matches my field matches my future matches my truth. The social anchor, a contained public act. If you have already followed the early invitation to join with the word coherence in the comments, you have placed a small public seal in the lattice. If you have not, that initial participation is optional and remains available. Now, after practicing the ritual privately, you may choose to place a final small public marker as an act of integration. If you wish to do this, comment one exact word: sealed. No emojis, no punctuation, no additions. The word sealed in plain text serves as a public anchor. It is a cultural marker for repetition and training. If you prefer not to participate publicly, you may repeat the word inwardly 3 times and consider the action complete. Either route honors privacy and choice. What to expect in the days after practice. Subtlety. Expect quiet steadiness rather than dramatic events. Less apology in speech. You may notice fewer "I'm just" moments. New questions. As clarity increases, opportunities for defining boundaries and refining offers will appear. This is normal. Calibration. Your social and professional landscape may adjust to your amplitude over time. When the field resists, if you feel stagnation, do not interpret it as failure. Routine repetition is the mechanism. Return to the ritual. Keep logs brief and notice micro-shifts. The Council delights in small, sustained changes rather than theatrical leaps. An invitation to deepen. For those whose field feels ready for continued calibration, there is an optional doorway, a lightly held circle where deeper practices of tone, silence, and receiving are offered over a limited series of sessions. This doorway is an invitation, not an obligation. It is offered for those who feel resonance and want guided repetition in community. The doorway is not required for the work to advance. It is a support for those who prefer facilitated practice. You will be able to find that doorway when you are called. No pressure. It is simply a resource for refinement. A final normalization and closing seal. Return now one more time to the inward hinge. Quiet your posture. Breathe in gently. If you practice physically, do a single cycle of the 3 phrases, inwardly. I am here to be clear. I am claiming my signal. I am allowed to take space. Then speak the seal inwardly, once, in order. My mouth matches my field. My field matches my future. My future matches my truth. Hold the feeling for a moment. The council will listen. The field will read the difference between repetition and performance. Small, consistent actions accumulate. The Arcturians invited you to answer. Answering is an internal agreement first. It is followed by practice, small tests, and steady integration. If you feel moved to place a public anchor after this sequence, and if the platform and your safety allow, type exactly the single word, sealed, into the comments. No extras, no punctuation. Plain. For those who will proceed privately, repeat the ritual daily until the phrases become automatic, then integrate them as quick inner calibrations before introductions, requests, and moments of presence. You were called. The invitation is simple and clear. Answering does not require grand gestures. It requires a series of small, honest alignments that let your mouth become a faithful gate for the field you are offering. The Arcturians stand at pattern's edge as observers and metaphor. The choice to step into coherence is yours. The Arcturians are calling. Will you answer their invitation?